Hello. In this video, I'm going to show you how I replaced the sole on my Wicked Good Moccasins from L.L.Bean. So I've had these shoes for 10 years. I wear them every single day, every morning, every night, around my house, going to check the mail, putting the trash out on the curb. Literally, like, whenever I am home, these are the shoes that are on my feet. And I love them. They're very warm, they're very sturdy, they fit my feet very well. Even in the winter, even in the summer, I wear them. So I wanted to, and I got them 10 years ago when they cost maybe $70 versus $90 now. And I could buy a new pair. I think that $90 is a very fair price for these, but I just was not ready to part with them because I felt like in my soul, even though it was probably not a fair feeling, it's like, Janelle, come on, spend the money, get a new pair of slippers. But I just felt like it was a ripoff. I felt like I didn't get my money's worth based on principle alone. Because L.L.Bean had a lifetime guarantee when I bought these slippers, and now here we are 10 years later. They rescinded that guarantee maybe 5 years ago, so these are no longer covered even though they were purchased in the time of the lifetime guarantee. But I digress. So I'm like, I gotta fix the sole on these things. I'm really not ready to part with them. I emotionally, I'm not ready to part with them. I need another 3, 4, 5 years out of these before I'm tossing in the towel and getting a new pair. So I go to the L.L.Bean website. Let's see if they offer replacement soles. Let's see if they offer repair. If I have to spend $30, mail it in, wait 6 weeks, get it back, I'm fine with that. That would be ideal. But they don't do that. Okay, plan B. Let's check out a shoe repair shop. So I go to my local shoe repair shop, and they can't do it. Well, they can, but they said it'll cost me $120. And I said, thanks, but no thanks. He even didn't want to do it. He's like, look, this is going to cost $120, and I just don't think these ratty old slippers are worth that price. No, I'm just kidding. He didn't say that. But he did said, I don't think you want me to do this. And I said, yeah, I think you're probably right. So then, plan C. Let's see if I can do this on my own. So, I was thinking like Boy Scouts. This is like a project, like making your own moccasin slippers. You buy a kit, you learn how to sew, tie some knots. I was like, how hard could it be? So I scoured the internet. L.L.Bean, Wicked Good Moccasin, sole replacement. Nothing. Crickets. Okay. Well, let's widen the search a little bit. So I go on YouTube, I go on Reddit, go on just Google. I didn't find exactly what I was looking for, but I found a couple videos, and I kind of put them together to make my own thing. And a lot of the moccasin slippers, they were talking about crepe leather and, rubber cement plus like tire shreds. It's like that kind of just sounds messy. I found this one video from a woman in New Zealand who was putting on a rubber sole onto felted slippers, and I was like, that's not exactly what I'm doing here, but I think it's a good start. So that's what I did, and I'll show you how I did that. So here you can see what exactly the problem was with my slippers. It's that over time, the rubber bottom, I think where my foot bends, it just cracked. Rubber gets hard and brittle because it oxidizes over time. The polymers break down. It just can't bend like it used to, and it just started cracking into little pieces and falling apart. It was like an Easter egg hunt, seriously, all around my apartment. A little piece here, a little piece there, a little piece here. So that's why I needed to replace the soles. So the first thing I did was I took a seam ripper from my sewing machine, or you could use like any little piece, maybe even a pocket knife or anything, just to cut the stitching around the rubber. And it was actually easier for me to just cut one stitch and then to manually unthread it. It was a lot easier to do it that way for me than to seam rip every single stitch, because there is a bit of a lip in there and it was hard to get the seam. It wasn't hard, but it wasn't easy to have put the seam ripper through every single one. I did use so anyways, I did that. And that probably took me 15 minutes, 10 or 15 minutes to completely undo the entire bottom, and then the bottom just popped off, pulled all the thread out, done. So after I took all the stitches out, I kind of just took a really good close look at the slippers themselves and kind of took inventory. I wanted to see what the stitches holes, what they look like, and then that extra padding on the bottom, just like how goodly glued was that on? Did I want to adjust any gluing? Was anything torn or ripped? And mine seemed to be in pretty good shape. I think the pictures look worse than what it looked like in real life. Because looking back, making this video, I'm like, maybe I should have done something. But when I was holding them, I really felt like they were okay. Like, yeah, they're not new, but everything was pretty secure. It's just a little bit of wear and tear. So that's kind of what mine looked like. And you can see the rubber soles next to it. Even the one where nothing was falling off, there's a big crack in the middle of that. So they both needed to be replaced, really. And it's better to do both at the same time, just in case one is a little thinner bottom than the other, and then your slippers are off balance, or just so next time you do them, they're on the same time schedule, and you're not doing this, like, all for one slipper, all this work for one slipper. Anyways, so the next thing, I measured the width of that rubber bottom, and it was about 4 millimeters, just so I had an idea of what I wanted to look for. And just feeling the thickness of it, I knew it would be hard to work with a flat bottom. Everything I was buying was flat. So, that was molded to perfectly fit the shoe I was working with. But if I were to buy a flat piece of 4 millimeter, it would be a lot harder to kind of wrap it around and bend around the shoe. Maybe someone could do it, but as a very first project, I know I can't. So I ended up going with 2 millimeter, which I think is perfectly good for slipper purposes. Running outside to get the mail, stuff like that. I'm not going on walks in the city in this, just be bopping around my house. So I'm happy with the 2 millimeter, and it wasn't too difficult to work with. And I bought that from an Etsy shop. I think it's called Maestro Shoe Repair. I'll put the link in the description. That was like $12, and it was vibram material. It's really nice vibram, so I kind of feel like it's a bit legit, so I was happy with that. I needed a leather punch tool to make the holes in the rubber bottom so I could stitch through it, because it's not like sewing fabric that already has holes between the threads that you can fit into. You can't just force a needle through rubber, so that makes sense. I needed to get the punch tool. I got that from Tandy Leather. I also got the nylon thread from Tandy Leather. I got waxed nylon thread at the recommendation of one of the YouTube videos I watched, because it's waxed with like beeswax, I believe, and that just, when you're threading it through, it just kind of, it doesn't slide or slip around. It has grip, and it creates a bit of friction to hold it into place better, which I was happy with. And then I also had E6000 glue. This is literally the best glue. I bought it randomly like a couple years ago, and I felt like I had stumbled into a gold mine. Like, I was like, holy crap, I could use this for literally everything, and I have, and it worked great for this project. So I highly recommend that. So the first step was to lay out the rubber and kind of line up my shoe soles on there, and just traced with a pen, roughly, like, I just kind of tried to follow as best I could the old sole, and then I cut it out with a pair of scissors. And I kind of left a little on the edge because I thought, better to be a little over than under. I can always trim it later if I need to. So that's what I did next. Then I kind of just put my slipper on the sole and tried to line up how I wanted it to go. And I tried to, fit it. The great thing about the moccasin slippers is that the leather shoe itself already had all the holes I needed to go into, which saved me a lot of time if compared to making a new pair. So I just kind of lined it up and saw where everything was going, and then I cut a little bit off here, a little bit off there, and then I was ready to go. So I took my leather punch tool, just sat in front of the TV, and I made holes about 5 millimeters away from each other, all around the shoe, so that's half a centimeter away, and I had them about 3 millimeters from the edge of the rubber, and I just went around the whole shoe and made holes, and I thought, well, I hope this is good enough. I was like, there's a discrete number of holes in my moccasin, and do I want to match that exactly? Or could I wing it, make a bunch of holes, and see if it works? And that's what I decided to do, and I'm very lucky that that's exactly how it happened. So I did this one shoe at a time, because I didn't want to punch all the holes in both soles, and then found out that I did it wrong, and it actually did matter exactly where my shoes were, so that's why I did it like that. And I'll say that it worked out, so feel free to wing it. I will say that. So then I took my E6000 glue, and I spread it all around the sole, the inside, not the textured side, of my rubber sole. I kind of went around the border, but inside the hole marks, and went around the middle, and just tried to have an even layering. I didn't rub it in or smooth it over or anything, but I probably had glue every centimeter. There was never a radius of more than, half a centimeter without glue touching it somehow, whether it was in lines or swirls or whatever. And then I very carefully pushed my moccasin into the glue, tried to line it up exactly where I wanted it, and then I put it on my foot, and I just really pressed down, and I kind of let it sit like that for 30 minutes before I started to work on it, because I didn't want this glue to be sliding around. I wanted it to have a bit of a bond before I started threading. So then, time to start threading. So I threaded my needle, and I'll put a link in the description for that, but it was a very easy knot to tie. I just threaded it in a way that someone else did for leather stitching, and I thought that was a good thing to imitate. I started going from the inside of the shoe, so opening the inside of the shoe and sticking the needle through the bottom corner, or the bottom edge where the upper part of the slipper meets the bottom sole. I kind of just stuck my needle through and searched around a bit until I found an opening through a hole in the moccasin. And then when it went through there, I looked for a hole I went through the rubber sole. I kind of lined it up, and it was kind of already attached, but I lined up where the closest hole was and pulled it through. Then I pulled all the thread through, and then I, just going in an upwards direction, went through the next hole, down, first going through the rubber sole, and then looking for the closest hole in the stitching in the moccasin leather, and then going through that. Then pulling the thread all the way through, and then making sure everything's nice and taut, and then finding the next hole, going back through the inside of the slipper, and I have a video here showing it, and then going through the next hole in the moccasin slipper, coming out of the bottom of the shoe, going into the rubber, pulling that taut, and I just did that around the entire shoe. The heel was a little bit of a challenge, but not too bad. The hole was more of a challenge. The toe was more of a challenge because it's just really not easy to force your hand all the way up there and get the stitching through to try to find a hole. It's kind of like, your head's under a pool cover in the pool or something, and you're looking for the opening, and you're coming up like, where is it? And then you find it. That was a weird analogy, but anyways. So when you get to the end, I kind of went over a couple times just to try to go stitch back and forth or give it some extra security where the stitching ends, and then I ended it on the inside of the slipper where I tied 2 knots, just a basic knot, and then cut the thread. And then that was that. And then what I did after that was, there was this one section where the rubber was just bending too much, and I thought it would be better if I just cut it. And then I threaded over it to make it secure. And I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. So the next thing I did was, as you can see, I did a pretty good job. I probably could have put these stitches a little bit closer to the edge of the rubber than 3 millimeters, but I think you don't want to be too close because then the rubber could, crack or break, and then the stitching isn't doing anything. So I'm happy with what I did, but there was still some gaps between the moccasin and the slipper on the edge. So I just took my E6000 glue and put like a dab here, a dab there, a dab there. Then I push it down really hard, and then I put it under something very heavy, like a piece of furniture, a mattress, anything like that. And I just did that for 2 hours. Actually, it was maybe like 4 hours. I just kind of forgot about it. I'd put it and forgot about it. And then I came back to my slippers, all done. I was like, wow, like, you did it. Good job. So I felt pretty proud of myself. Obviously, you can tell they're, you wouldn't want to sell these at a farmer's market. Like, maybe if I get better with my handiwork, but I just made these for myself, and they work for me, and I'm happy. This rubber is actually really nice, has good grip and everything, and I hope to get another, I don't know, maybe I can get 2 or 3 years out of these. I can also buy a shearling insert that's just the bottom inner sole that has extra fur. So, because I'm kind of wearing thin on the bottom there. So, I'm thinking about doing that. But other than that, this all in, the leather punch tool was expensive. That was about $20. Not including that, everything else cost maybe $20 or $25. I bought a lot of stuff from Tandy Leather, so, like my needles, my thread. So I definitely recommend that. And, versus buying a new pair for $90, I did a pretty good job. So, anyways, I hope you enjoy it. I hope this helps you. And if you have nothing to do on a rainy day and you're looking to lengthen the life of your L.L.Bean Wicked Good Moccasins or something that looks similar, say go for it. Anyways, bye.